I would call this hearing to order. Good morning. Welcome and thank you all for being here today. We are meeting at a different time than we normally meet. The committee appreciates everybody's flexibility. Today the committee is holding an oversight hearing on tribal transportation programs at the Department of Interior and the Department of Transportation. Later this year, the current authorization of the transportation programs will expire and will have to be renewed. The committee would like to take this opportunity to examine how tribal transportation programs are working and how we can build on the progress of the last authorization. I recently visited with several Indian tribes in Montana, my home state, and traveled to some of the very roads that we're going to be discussing today. The infrastructure needs in Indian country are great, and for Indian communities to increase economic development and opportunities on reservations, we must invest in improving and expanding transportation infrastructure. These investments are in line with the federal government's treaty and trust responsibility to American Indians, and these investments are crucial to improving the quality of life on tribal lands. It's not just economic development, it is safe and adequate roads and highways that are critical to the other issues such as public safety and education. On some Indian reservations, children spend 2 hours a day traveling to and from school on roads that, quite frankly, are not adequate. And this is when there is transportation available. We hear far too often about the unspeakable tragedies of pedestrians being struck while walking alongside of some of the most remote and dangerous roadways in the country. Just last month, a young girl from the Northern Cheyenne Reservation was struck and killed along Highway 212, a road that has seen an incredible increase in use in recent years. This is unacceptable. The dire conditions of these roads lead to delayed response times for law enforcement and for medical assistance. Investments in improved roads can speed up the response time and ultimately will save lives. Motor vehicle accidents are the #1 cause of death for American Indians age 1 through 34 and the third overall cause of death for all American Indians. Many of these deaths are preventable. As we prepare for the reauthorization, we must look for ways to reduce the amount of motor vehicle accidents and improve safety on our reservations. Lastly, we need to invest in transit programs. Whether it's a trip to the doctor or rides to work, folks need public transportation options that they can count on. The last reauthorization doubled the amount of funding for tribal transit program, but there is still plenty of work left to do. I want to thank the witnesses for traveling a long way here to Washington, D.C. to present your perspective on this important issue. I'd like to personally welcome Mr. Dana Buckles from the Fort Peck Reservation in my home state of Montana. I'm looking forward to visiting Fort Peck this next Sunday and bringing Secretary Jewell to Montana and show her the reservation. Thank you all for being here. Senator Barrasso is on his way, and when he gets here, we will certainly give him the opportunity for an opening statement. But first, I think we'll just go right straight to the panel. I'd like to welcome our first panel of federal witnesses. We have Mr. Mike Black, the Director of Bureau of Indian Affairs at the Department of Interior. Prior to this position, Mike was the Regional Director for the BIA's Great Plains Regional Office in Aberdeen, South Dakota, which includes North and South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa. Prior to that, Mike was the Deputy Regional Director for Indian Services in the Bureau's Rocky Mountain Regional Office in Billings, Montana. Obviously, given his experience, Mike understands the needs in Indian country. In addition to Mr. Black, we have Mr. Bob Sparrow, who is the Director of Tribal Transportation Programs at the Federal Highway Administration. Bob has worked for Federal Highways for 18 years, and he has overseen the Federal Highways Tribal Transportation Program for the last 10 years. Bob was directly involved in the development of the Federal Highway Tribal Transportation Program agreements. Welcome, Mr. Black and Mr. Sparrow. Mr. Black, we'll start with your testimony. And I would just say that your entire testimony, your entire written testimony, as in both cases, in all cases, with all these hearings, will be a part of the record. We look forward to your verbal presentation. Mr. Black.